Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then hi, hello. I have been struggling with so much anxiety lately, and to be very honest with you, it's because I have not been sleeping very well. Like I already have the issue where going to bed at a decent hour is something that I just cannot bring myself to do because every time it hits 10 o'clock, I get this burst of motivation to where I'm like, oh, I want to stay up. I want to pull on an all-nighter. And it's like, girl, we have work in the morning. We can't do that. And even when I try to force myself to go to bed, it always works against me. I will do everything to make myself super sleepy and I feel the tiredness. I feel ready to go to bed. And then by the time I actually turn my phone off and I'm like, all right, I think I'm ready to go to sleep now, my brain will not rest. I start thinking about everything that could go wrong in my life. And then I'm up until the crack of dawn freaking out because I think once I step in my car, it's gonna explode. I have always struggled with anxiety and feeling paranoid and just being preoccupied with my future and how it's going to work out for me. I get these very rigid rules for myself to follow these plans, so when they don't actually go to plan, I tend to spaz out and I get really frustrated and I think the universe is working against me, or I think I'm doing something wrong. And the worst part about it is that my anxiety gets to me so bad that I sometimes enter this mindset where I start blaming everybody else except for me, and then that leads to a whole bunch of other problems. But at the end of the day, after this cycle rinses and repeats itself, I always end up feeling horrible and feeling like I can't do anything because I just felt like I couldn't do anything right, or I'm too scared that the worst is going to happen. And I do all this doomsday prepping in my head to make sure these things don't happen. In my personal experience with anxiety, I have noticed that anxiety starts to build up when I feel stuck or I feel trapped and I feel like I can't find the solution to the answers that I crave or I yearn for. For example, starting a new job. That will make me feel anxious because I feel I don't have the best qualities for the job, or I fear that I'm not going to do well, I'm not going to perform well. And then because of that, I spend so much time prolonging the process of starting that job because I feel like I have to do the extra work to get ready for that. When the truth is, I don't even give the experience a chance to come to me because I'm too focused on eliminating the fear from it. I don't even embrace fear. I don't even take it face on. I'm just no, I can't do that. And then in situations where I encounter the thing that I'm most scared of, instead of taking all the lessons and progress that I've built up to face this fear, I freeze up, I let it get to me, and then I fail at whatever I'm trying to do. And I tell myself, oh, that was horrible. I can't ever let that happen again. And because that happened so badly, now I have a reason to be scared. And obviously, that's not going to get anybody anywhere in life. I don't want to say that about other people. When this happens to people, I have so much empathy for them because that's exactly what I go through. But when I see it happen to myself, I get mad at myself for it because it's you just wasted so many of your hours just to do something unproductive. Another important factor for anxiety to build up is when you notice you have a lack of something, for example, a lack of confidence, or even let's bring the job analogy back. Let's say you have a lack of financial security. So what you're trying to look for is to find something that brings you that type of security. Like let's say the lack of confidence, you want to find security through someone who's going to boost your confidence, or you have the lack of financial security. You want to find a job that fulfills financial security. So you want to, you do have it like in you to want to find something that stops the anxiety. But what the problem is you're putting so much emphasis on the fear factor of anxiety. And the thing is, fear is a very important emotion. You want to have fear. You want your amygdala to work. I mean, for me, the mental illness that I struggle with, my amygdala is way overactivated. So when I feel fear, I actually tend to think of the worst possible scenario, which is not good. But what is good is to have that kind of sense of there could be danger here. There could be something that's a risk here. And it's up to you to figure out how you're going to combat that fear. How do you face fear head on? For example, like you're in a situation where you know the dog might bite you or a cat might scratch you. You're pretty familiar with the situation. You just know there's a risk here. Is that going to stop you from petting the dog or the cat if you know you can? I know that's like a really weird example, but like I guess what I'm trying to say is like you can't let every fearful thought that you have stop you from living your life. If you did that, you would be stuck in your house all day. And now there are some people who do struggle with this to the extent of that. And that does not mean that they should be ashamed of themselves, or does that mean that like they're the bottom of the barrel of society? Absolutely not. It means that we're all struggling to get some kind of power over our emotions and our anxiety, and it has gotten to the point where it does prevent us from doing the things that we want to do, up to the point where sometimes the things that we want to do, the anxiety eats it away. So where we think like, why would I ever want to do that? Obviously I want to stay home all day. It's safe here. This feels safe. Anxiety is a false sense of security sometimes, because anxiety will try to make you stuck. And eventually, if this gets enforced over and over and over into a cycle, you will find that staying stuck is the new security. But we should not be living like this. We shall not fall into these types of habits and patterns, because that means that our anxiety has won. And what you want to do is advocate for yourself. You want to be the winner. You want to control your life, not your thoughts, not your emotions. One of my biggest downfalls with anxiety is like sometimes I get to a point where I do feel the urge to talk to somebody about it. And I do, once in a blue moon, try to reach out to someone and let them know what's going on with me. And I seek advice. Then the advice is given to me. And because my anxiety has such a strong force over me, I don't listen to the advice that they're trying to give me. For example, I had a friend that was like, girl, it sounds like you really just like need to give yourself more time to find things that you love to do. Like give yourself permission to like play, give yourself permission to do the things that you want to do. You don't have to be trapped just living exactly by your routine. And which is really good advice. But the thing was, I was like, no, that's wrong, because that means I'm not doing anything productive. So why would I listen to that? Because that's just going to mean that I don't even go after what I want. And it's like, you know, your anxiety makes up excuses for you to stay stuck, like I said before. So it can be very difficult to reach out to people and to actually listen to their advice when you know you're not really ready for that kind of advice. Your anxiety wants to hear things that keeps you in the same place. So when you're receiving information that sounds like it's going to eliminate that fear, eliminate that anxiety, that fear in itself does not want to be eliminated. It does not want to leave. It fears leaving you. So, of course, you're gonna be stuck again. Like, ah! I also think there's a big reason as to why so many people nowadays are anxious. It's not always just like people like me, or maybe even you if you're watching this video and you relate to this, or whatever the thing is. My point is, like, I think a lot of people, even without a history of mental illness, do struggle with anxiety. It's becoming more of a problem within our society, and it's upsetting because it, like it prevents a lot of people from living out their dream life because we observe so many people falling into like an average 9 to 5 or getting a degree in something that they regret, but because they don't have the financial security, they have to settle for less kind of thing. Or like someone gets into a relationship with somebody and they're being treated horribly, but they settle for less because they fear leaving means that they're not going to have anything. And that brings us back to what I was saying in the beginning, like then you're going to fear that you lack something. Like with the example of observing an average 9 to 5 person who is really depressed with their life, and you like witness this, you fear that you don't want to fall into the same bad habits like they're doing, or you don't want to fall into that same routine, that meh life. It doesn't feel very enticing or exciting. It doesn't make you want to try to get any kind of achievement. You don't want to reach your goals because you're like, like I see other people, they've reached their goals, but like at the cost of what? Now they kind of hate their life. That was a lot of jumbled words, but my point with that is that there is going to be more depression, more anxiety in our future. And instead of being scared of it, instead of just observing that and saying like, well, there's nothing I can do about it, it's just going to happen, don't be a doomer about it. Embrace anxiety. Embrace that it is part of human nature at this point. And there are ways that you can get out of the cycle of anxiety. There are ways that you can advocate for yourself and you can do things for yourself because you want to achieve something. Your life does not have to look exactly like the other person's life. Even if you're set to go on the same path as so many other people and you know what's in store, there might be some risk involved, there might be some times where you're on the struggle bus. Take that as an advantage. Take that thing that you are afraid of, the things that you fear, what you know is in store for you, what you're anxious about being in store for you, but you don't quite know if that's going to happen yet. Take that as information and let that prepare you to embrace anxiety and face it head on, because the worst that could happen is that you fail. And you know what's the best thing about failing? Once you fail, you can always get better from that failure. You don't like fail and then it's like, okay, you can never do something ever again. Your anxiety is telling you that's the only way it has to be. You can have 1,000 failures and one success. And you know what is the best part about that? You may think that all the failures make you go down like this more and more and more each time. But to me, a failure just puts you on one line here. And every time you succeed, it puts you higher, higher. And even if you fail after the success, you're still moving up. You're still achieving something really amazing. And you have to keep giving yourself that acceptance and permission to achieve this. Madeline Argy, or Argy, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, sorry queen, but she had a podcast video about anxiety, and something from that video stuck out to me. And she was talking about how her therapist was talking to her, how she was so anxious about school, and she was like, I just want to leave, but I'm stuck. And her therapist was like, okay, well, I give you permission to leave. If you're scared about something, you can leave the situation. You have the power to do that. And then once he told her that, and she realized that she had like the permission, she could give herself permission to leave, it made her realize like, wait a minute, because I have an outlet, because I have this option, I feel kind of better just knowing that I have that option. So, like apply this to other things that you're anxious about. Is there an option to let this go? Is there an option for you to embrace the fear, go through it, and if it didn't work out, is there a way that you can let that go? Obviously, this is all like mental work that you have to do, but at the end of the day, there are ways that you can beat your anxiety. Sometimes journaling is a double-edged sword. Like, if you keep writing about your anxious thoughts and you're not doing enough work to actually get over those thoughts, then you're going to be stuck again. You could write down things that you have overcome as well. Write about an experience that made you anxious and how you were able to overcome that. See if there's a pattern there. See if there's like one thing that sticks out that's similar in all these instances, and use that to your advantage. Because when your anxiety starts to see that you're becoming smarter than it, it's going to get bad again. Trust me, it's going to try its hardest to keep you stuck and under its control. But you're going to be smart, and you're going to give yourself the permission to let this anxiety go. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. I have so many podcast ideas coming out in the future, and I really like yapping to my camera. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!